Hello, English 11 students, and welcome to the Quarter 2, Week 5, Day 1 video. This video is designed for those students who were absent during our live Zoom class. What I'd like you to do is please go to Canvas, click on the dates for this week, and open the Week 5 notebook time assignment. Load that in another tab, and then you're going to need to go back to Canvas. As a reminder, everything you say, do, or type is recorded, so please remember to keep it school appropriate. And as always, there's no saving, downloading, or taking pictures of our lesson today or ever. All right, if we look at our agenda, we are doing the Week 5 notebook time activity, right? There'll be the free write in the beginning. I'll do a quote integration mini lesson, and then we'll return to the notebook time activity where you'll be asked to apply what you've learned in the mini lesson activity. First, a shout out to these students who earned their exemption for this week for today's assignment. Just as a reminder, right, these students still need to attempt today's work and turn something in to earn their credit. The exemption is applied after. You still have to do some work. Again, as a reminder, if you turn in today's assignment and the day 2 assignment before 3 o'clock, you can earn, you can earn an exemption for the first assignment for next week. All right, first, a quick note. If you did not hit the submit button for last week's excerpt 2 of 3 assignment, we cannot see your work and your current grade is a 0. I tried using a different uploading system, and unfortunately, it's not as good as the one that we used before. So I've gone back to the way that we've done it before. But what I'd like you to do is, if this applies to you, if you did not click the submit button, or if you're unsure if you did, please just pause the video here, go back and look at your excerpt 2 of 3 work, and make sure that you click the submit button now. Again, please pause the video and follow these directions, and then resume when you're ready. Okay, so moving on. If you go to this week's our homepage, right, go to this week's dates, you should see the Week 5 notebook time assignment there under Week 5, Day 1. You're going to open that up, and it will look like this. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to view the video link here. We'll actually watch it in this video. And then you'll have 15 minutes to free write a response to these 2 questions. We've expanded the free writing time to 15 minutes because a lot of students just needed some extra time to get those words down. So we'll do that. If it turns out that you completely exhaust the answers to these 2 questions in less time, that's fine. After that, we'll move on to the mini lesson in this video, where you'll be filling out some notes, and then we'll complete the third part at the bottom of the document. So let's get to looking at our stuff, right? So the questions we're looking at is, why does Stephen Colbert quote the letter from Nabisco in his comedy skit? And then looking at the quoted samples, select one quote that you like or that you dislike and explain why Colbert's quote makes you feel this way, right? So either explain why you like the quote or explain why you don't like the quote or the way he used the quote, etc., in his skit. Okay, so some quick background for those of you who don't know, right? This is Stephen Colbert. He's a famous comedian. He used to be the host of a show called The Colbert Report, which was a news kind of comedy program, right? They actually did report the news, but they did it using comedy or using jokes to kind of get the information across. It was on Comedy Central. This skit comes from several years ago, and I'm going to play that for you now. Give me 1 second. It is here.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much. Folks, regular viewers of this show know that a couple of times a year, the network sometimes asks me to do an integrated sponsorship, which I love. The money's green and I'm in. These sponsor opportunities have led to some of our most memorable segments. From the Hail to the Cheese, Stephen Colbert's Nacho Cheese Doritos 2008 presidential campaign coverage, to last week's Syrian atrocity update brought to you by Fruit Roll-Ups. Fruit Roll-Ups overthrow your taste buds. Now, a little brought to you by credit is usually it. But tonight, we have a product too important, because tonight, it's Wheat Thins. Wheat Thins, crunch is calling, and the call is coming from inside your mouth. Get out of there. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Steven, how important could wheat thins be? Yeah, I used to think that way too. Until I received this actual memo from Wheat Thins, detailing for my sponsorship purposes what the role of Wheat Thins is in our lives. And let me tell you something. You think you know Wheat Thins? You. You and the cracker you wrote in on. Okay? Now listen up. Now shut up. Listen up. If you've got some Wheat Thins at home, and I hope you do, go get them. And if you don't have any, go buy some. I'll wait. Are they gone? Good, because I'm not waiting for anyone who didn't already have Wheat Thins. Now, the team at Nabisco has broken down the Wheat Thins core message into two distinct categories. What is the role of the brand, and what's not the role of the brand? Bullet point 1, Wheat Thins are the perfect snacking sidekick whenever, wherever, and for whatever. Okay? What's it go with? Cheese? Yes. Hummus? Sure. A discarded strip of truck tire? It can handle it. Now, I would love to pour this whole box in my mouth right now. But the memo clearly states that we can't show overconsumption. That is a brand don't. You see, the serving size for Wheat Thins is 16 crackers. So as delicious as they are, I shouldn't eat more than 16. And also, if they are shown out of the box, like in a bowl, there should only be a max of 16. So remember, everyone, while Wheat Thins is, quote, a snack for anyone who is actively seeking experiences, those experiences do not include the experience of eating 17 crackers. And you know what? That is the way it should be. Because when you think about it, and they have, 16 is the perfect number of Wheat Thins to keep you on the path to and proud of doing what you love to do, no matter what that is. No matter what. Driving kids to practice, watching a movie, arson, no judgment. Because Wheat Thins are not a creator of isolated, unshareable experiences. They are a connector of like-minded people encouraging sharing. Perfect for a party. So just get out the big bowl, okay? And just fill it to the brim with 16 Wheat Thins. Okay? There you go. 16 Wheat Thins. And you and 15 of your friends are set for the night. And folks, don't listen to the haters. Wheat Thins are not an exclusive or exclusionary brand. So blacks, Jews, get in here. Now, I want to reiterate, I cannot say this too many times, that this is an actual memo from Wheat Thins that I received. And I just want to make sure you understood that before I informed you that Wheat Thins are not a crusader or rebel looking to change individual paths or the world. No! That's those outside agitators over at Cheese Nips. You can't trust them. They're liable to start a riot out there showing everybody their nips. Anyway, folks, now that I understand how much philosophy is packed in to every 100% whole grain square, I gotta have me some. 16. Okay, here we go. Oh, yeah. You know what? This feels right. But I still want more. What do you say? Should I go for 17? I would like to apologize to Wheatthins and the entire Nabisco family of snackable products. I thought that I was building a purposeful experience relevant to the brand, but I see now that I was being a crusader and or a rebel.
Okay. So at this time, right, what you would do is you're going to need to pause the video here after I put this up. Sorry, give me 1 second. Loading. Okay, so at this time, right, you're going to write in that free response area the answers to those two questions, right? The first question was, why does Stephen Colbert quote the letter from Nabisco in his comedy skit? And the second question was, looking at the quoted samples, which are here on the screen for you to look at, to make that a little bit easier for you. There's also a link that you could click to see these. But looking at the quoted samples, select one quote that you like or dislike and explain why Colbert's quote makes you feel that way. So again, you would need to pause the video here, make sure that you answer both of those questions on the right-hand side in the free write area, and then you can hit resume when you're ready. Please do that now. Okay, so let's move on to the mini lesson section. Oop. There it goes. Okay, so just like we did before, right, for part 2, I'm going to go through a mini lesson. There are these red brackets where you will be filling in the missing information that you need to complete your notes. And every time there is something for you to fill in, right, you have this blue icon in the lower right-hand corner of your screen to kind of prompt you. All right, so the first section, when do you use quotes? You use quotes in academic writing when you want to prove a claim that you have made in your thesis and when you want to use another person's words in your writing. Please pause the video here and enter those two answers. Okay. So a quick example, right? In an essay where a student was trying to argue that the information about wearing masks to prevent COVID was conflicting and confusing, the student wrote this. During a July interview, Dr. Fauci told reporters that, quote, it's not helpful for conflicting guidance to be presented when we are trying to get people to universally wear masks. And that comes from BBC News, a BBC News article. Using Fauci's quote helps the student support his or her essay's claim, right? They were trying to prove or argue that the information was confusing, and this is a doctor saying that that's exactly what the problem is, right? It doesn't help to people, to have a bunch of different people saying a bunch of different things when they're trying to get everybody to wear them. So the next section, how long should quotes be? You should only quote what you need to prove your claim and avoid using long quotes in your writing. So one more time. You should only quote what you need to prove your claim and avoid using long quotes in your writing. Oops, hold on, sorry. You can go ahead and pause the video here and add in those answers before we move on to look at a sample. Okay. So a quick example, right? Look at this section taken from a student's essay on the reception or how people liked or didn't like Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me. New York Times critic Michelle Alexander writes, quote, I will confess that after the first reading of Between the World and Me, I was disappointed. Initially, I was enthralled by Coates' characteristic brilliance and insight, as well as the poetic manner in which he addresses his son. But by the end, I was exasperated and disappointed. Now, how much of this really long quote does the student actually need if their goal is to prove that the critic changed his mind about the book? Right? You don't need all of those words. You only need the stuff that's important. So let's look again at that quote, but let's also look at it with with the stuff that we don't need crossed out. Right? New York Times critic Michelle Alexander writes, "I will confess that after the first reading of Between the World and Me, I was disappointed. Initially, I was enthralled, but by the end, I was exasperated." Blah, blah, blah. Right? We don't need this part in here. So the student can cut all those words out, the stuff that's crossed out, and they can save themselves not only some space in their essay, but they can also save themselves some time, right? Another example, right? Or sorry, going off of that example. To show that you've cut out parts of a quote, you use what are called ellipses, or the three dots. So in this case, right, just like we did before, the ellipses would be here to show that that extra material got cut out, right? Initially, I was enthralled, ... but by the end, I was exasperated and disappointed. Right? Again, those ellipses are supposed to signal to the reader that there was more to the quote, but the student only needed some of the author's words. Okay, so the next section, where do quotes go in your sentence? Quotes can go at one of two places in your sentence. They can go at the end of your sentence, or they can go in the middle of your sentence. Quotes cannot go at the start of your sentence. Please take a moment now to write these, to pause the video and copy your answers down before we move on. Okay. A quick example of two correctly placed quotes. First, an example of putting the quote at the end of the sentence. Just like Stephen Colbert used in his video, right? You see, the serving size for Wheat Thins crackers, quote, is 16 crackers, right? Notice the quote in purple there, right? It's at the end of the sentence. You could also put a quote in the middle of the sentence. An example of when Stephen Colbert did that in the video is when he said, so remember everyone that while Wheat Thins is, quote, a snack for anyone who is actively seeking experiences, end of the quote, those experiences do not include the experience of eating 17 crackers. Okay? Again, you can put it either at the end of the sentence or you can put it in the middle of a sentence. You just cannot put it at the beginning of a sentence. So what punctuation do you use when you're integrating quotes? You need to place a comma between the attribution and the quote. And you need to place a quotation marks around the words that you're borrowing from another author. A quick example, right? Again, that during a July interview, Dr. Fauci told reporters that, quote, it's not helpful for conflicting guidance when trying to get people to universally wear masks, right? If you look carefully at this, right, there's the comma here between the attribution during the July interview. Dr. Fauci told reporters that, right? Those are the students' words. And then the quotation marks at the beginning and at the end of the quote to show that that came from another author. So what is citation and where does it go? Citation is when you give the reader the last name of the person who wrote the quote that you use to give them credit. Citation goes in parentheses at the very end of the sentence with the quote in it. A quick example, right? During the interview, et cetera, in that example I just used in the previous screen, right here, the BBC News, this is the official author, right? This is the official publication that originally had the quote in it. So the citation tells us the quote was originally used in that article. A very common error that people make when they do these citations is lots of people automatically put in the citation right after the end of the quote, right? But that's incorrect. Citations never go in the middle of a sentence because it's distracting. They always go at the end. Okay, so in class, I had people do this quick quiz. If you take a look at these two samples, they're using almost the exact same words. And I'm asking you, which of these students has correctly used the quote from Between the World and Me? The one on the left or the one on the right? You can pause the video here and then kind of check yourself. I'll go over the answer with you in a second. Okay, so if you look carefully at these two, the difference between them is the one on the left has the citation in the middle of the sentence, which we just said we're not supposed to do. So it's the one on the right that is done correctly. It has the comma between the attribution and the quote. I see quotation marks here at the beginning of the quote and here at the end of the quote, and the citation is at the very end of the sentence. Okay. So part 3, right? If you look at the directions, it says select one of the quotes from the core text below. Then rewrite the quote, placing that quote at the end of the sentence in one spot here, and in the middle of the sentence in the other spot here. If you need an example, there's a hyperlink, and I'll show you that example in the next screen in a second. But you probably would want to use the quote that you worked with last week from the excerpt. If you can't remember who said these quotes, you can click on the hyperlink and it'll take you to the excerpt to look at again very quickly. So again, you pick one of these, right? One quote. You're going to have to write your own attribution. The little girl said, or the author tells us that, whatever it is that you make up. And you're going to put the quote at the end of the sentence here. And you're going to put the quote in the middle of the sentence here. Again, if you click on the sample, you'll see that I used this one from Between the World and Me, right? He did not need to shoot. He had affirmed my place in the order of things. So putting that quote at the end of the sentence, I wrote the attribution that says, the author tells the reader that the boy with the small eyes, comma, quote, did not need to shoot. He had affirmed my place in the order of things, with Coates, the author's last name, as the citation. Putting that same quote in the middle of a sentence. When the author tells the reader that the boy with the small eyes, comma, quote, did not need to shoot, he had affirmed my place in the order of things, we can tell he is scared that the boy will shoot and kill him. Citation at the very end of the sentence. You want yours to look just like mine, only using the quotes from the excerpt that you worked with last week. Okay. Once you've finished that, you're all done. Please make sure that you turn in that notebook time assignment before 3 p.m. so that you can start working towards that assignment exemption. The deadline is 3 p.m. on Wednesday. If you need help, please attend student support. I will be posting a link to Miss Deal and Dr. Smith's student support this week because I'll be working with other students at that time and will not be available, but they will still be available during the normal time from 2:45 to 3:15 after class every day, as well as during the regular academic check-in or virtual check-in on Wednesdays. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in class soon.